Hey, welcome to the Kill or Be Killed podcast. I'm Damian. I'm here with my buddy Josh, and you are not watching the at least listened and watched podcast on the interwebs. And tonight we're going to be talking about what is a black belt. This all started from a comment that I got. I did a post on excessive sparring, and I mean I don't want to go through. I know we're just going to go down so many tangents. It's not even
just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. So I did this post on excessive sparring, and essentially my point is sparring. I just want to look at myself. Sparring creates really bad habits, and it's a really lazy way to learn. So that what I'm saying is that it's easy to kind of get a bunch of people in the room warm up and be like, okay, everybody roll, right? And then the instructor walks around. I've seen this obviously in BJJ, and I've seen it in judo, I've seen it in wrestling, I've seen it in a lot of combat sports, especially grappling sports, because it's like they wind up putting you with a senior belt, and the senior belt will show you some stuff, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but again at a very limited level. So you're basically it's like a seventh grader teaching a fifth grader. It's like, how well is that person going to know it, right? I mean, the thing about being a black belt and being an instructor is that you've done it so many times, you have performed it, and then you've completed the teaching, triangle, right? You've learned it, and then at the top, you start teaching it, and it's actually kind of inverted, because the more you teach it, the better you learn it. And the more people you teach it to, the better you have an understanding, because people, different people, process things differently. And even as an instructor, there's guys like Josh explains stuff better than I do. George does. I mean, you'll hear people say something like, holy crap, I never thought of it like that. That's a great way to, great way to do it. So the comment that I got, so I was talking about people coming in and learning and too much sparring, and then you get the comment, that's not all true. Sparring is usually more effective than drilling. Light sparring with adaptive teaching is better for individuals. The 10 years for a black belt is gatekeeping. Same thing Big Pharma does. Why just teach you with a year when I could bill you for 6? We'll get to that. You can easily become a highly effective fighter with sparring in a short time. You're making blanket statements to make your SLEF seem like you are the end-all be-all expert on the topic. This is a dumb take. Of course, I replied to him, but we talk about that is not true. And now I will say, if you're saying light sparring and adaptive teaching, I don't know what that is. You can do live hand fighting, and then what happens is you can't go against full resistance, is my point. You can do partial resistance. You can do, okay, we're going to hand fight, and then you take the shot, you're going to get it, you're going to finish it. 1, 2 is, if you're going to get, but if you're really sparring and you're going to get somebody who's completely resisting you, you're going to get locked up. Egos are going to get involved. You're going to start depending on bad habits, depending on strength. Doing, making certain mistakes. Yeah, if you put your hand one way or leave your elbow open or something like that, you're going to get strangled. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that, right? You're going to feel that. You're going to feel people get in a joint lock, people, get out of position, feeling, somebody's coming in for a submission or a pin. On your feet, you're going to feel yourself get off balance. You're going to immediately try to, get your grip. If you're striking, you're going to know that I'm like, oh my God, I extended too much on that. Or so, yeah. That's part of it, but you have to learn the process of it. You have to learn how to do the techniques correctly. And then when I say, drilling, it's like things are progressive. Like you start doing, you learn it slow, you do it fast, you do it and then you progressive. Then you're like, okay, counter, recounter, flow drill, things like that. And that's really the really way you learn. I mean, if you're looking at somebody who's drilling at a high level, you would think they're actually sparring, but they're not. The other thing that happens is less injury, a lot less injury. So, you get into, once you start doing that, you get your ego going, and then it's like, okay, do I extend for that? Do I hold it? do I can't, the guy gets it, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's cranking a joint lock at a higher speed than he probably should, and you're out for 6 to 8 weeks. So, then he says, it's like the 10 years for a black belt is gatekeeping. Same thing Big Pharma does. What you're gatekeeping is not gatekeeping. That is creating a customer and soaking them for tuition for a long period of time. That's what that is. That's what Big Pharma does. Big Pharma doesn't want to cure you. Big Pharma are going to get dinged. Big Pharma wants to make you a lifelong recurring customer. And that, that flushes down the tube. So then it basically makes my point. Why teach just you in a year when I can bill you for 6, which is exactly the opposite philosophy that we actually have for what we do. I want to teach you as fast as possible and get you ramped up. Yeah, you're not fighting for the UFC. You're learning self-defense. It's a completely different animal. I get it. But I'm not going to sit here and, wean you along for decades because, I got to pay the bills, right? I mean, yeah, you're making my point. They're extending it, and you're paying $200. You pay $200 a month over, 10 years. That's like 24 grand, let alone whatever uniforms, accessories, and other crap that you got to buy. Then you got to get to class, so you're taking time away from, you've got lost gains and your, whatever fuel and parking or whatever else you got going on. I'm not saying don't do it. Right? I'm not saying that's not, but I mean, to learn something efficiently, correctly, and quickly, sparring. I mean, I was told not by a Division I college coach, by the guys I was training with for the Olympics in judo, by the Russians I rolled around with. I mean, those guys would roll for literally hours. And it would be like, okay, just go a little bit. Okay, you're drilling, you drill, till you want to kill yourself and shoot yourself in the head. You're just drilling the same thing over and over again. I would drill an hour out of practice with my wrestling coach in college on a particular sequence I was having problems with. So, yeah, dude, don't, the wrestling in practice, it's just like what happens is like you get stale, right? So, you also like have this thing called one guy freaking said it. It's like mutual. It's a gentleman's agreement, right? What happens is when you're fighting the same guys every day. All right, dude, you're my friend. You start coasting. Like we would sit there in high school, we'd be wrestling with my buddy. We would just make mooing sounds and like moo. And just like, all right, dude, yeah, and occasionally do shit. The only time stuff like worked is when there was a competitive thing to it, like you're doing, like we call it whatever, shark bait or mucking like one guy in there fighting for takedown.
King of the hill, whatever, right?
Like that, yeah, like that all of a sudden sparks it. But you're wrestling. You're like, dude, it's like it's your buddy, man. I see you like 2-3 times a week in class.
I know your weaknesses.
Yeah, every day yeah, dude. I know you're doing a head turn. All of a sudden, yeah, that's it. So guess what? I'm just gonna sprawl as soon as you put your hand on my head. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm like it becomes stupid and it's not it's not real. So while you're sitting there saying like sparring, I go, dude, no. It's like a green belt level way of thinking.
Yeah. I love, you made a great point, right? So like my daughter, my oldest, she didn't want to do any competitions. She was like, I'm just going to roll and spar or whatever. And she got pretty good. And she was, holding her own or doing better than pretty much everybody in her class group or whatever. And one day she was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a competition. She went to this competition and she got submitted in like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was like her mind suddenly blew open and she was like, holy crap, it's different.
Competition is completely different. And if you want to, like, that's exactly right. And now it's like, now you've got to you could be like a dojo hero. And there's a lot of guys who are like Tarzan in the room, but Jane in the match, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
Because you're like, you get nervous, so it's a whole other thing.
But it pushed her to get better. And
yes.
The last one she did, she actually beat that girl that had beaten her 2 other times, plus somebody else. She won her tournament.
Yeah, she's got to adjust to the adrenaline. And
exactly. She's adjusted to it, everything, right? But that's the difference between, you know, friendly sparring day in and day out and a competition, which is the closest you're going to get to, quote unquote, a real encounter, right?
Right. The other thing is if you just go and, you know, you take your life in your own hands and you just go roll around different dojos. Like,
right.
When I was at height for wrestling, we'd go to like New York AC or, you know, whatever clubs we had around. And then judo, you can just grab and just go, hey, we're going down here tonight. Okay, cool. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, lots of schools do like, hey, open mat, and they invite different schools to come and this and that and whatnot.
And then that can get like, but then that's fun, right? Then we're like, okay, we're sparring. And this is like, you're viewing kind of like that as a competition.
Yeah. You know, mini competition, right?
But day in and day out, like these guys would tell me, I'm like, look, 10% of what you're doing is sparring. You know, like live, like, and that's what I consider sparring. You know, you're like adrenaline going, getting into it, you know, getting elevated. But again, you know, you do that too often, you break down. Things get hurt. I'm like, and that's where, you know, that's where the problem lies. Besides not being able, you know, you're learning stunt, you know, you're learning a stunt and you're learning bad habits.
Yeah.
Because you may be able to do something against like a, you know, yellow belt or a blue belt, but then when you get to a brown belt or a black belt, you know, it ain't gonna work, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're kind of, you know, you may be able to do X against the guys in your dojo, whatever, or you know, club or whatever, and you know, then when you get out, you know, it just is like, oh man, yeah, you know, that doesn't, you know, they just blew by that. So, you know, and then there was another point again, and then getting into, you know, the, you know, arbitrary means at which people are promoted. And especially, I don't want to beat up on BJJ, but it's very popular and a lot of people do it. And, you know, it's just an arbitrary way of like, you know, to determine whether you're a black belt. You automatically assume, you know, without like, if I took a course, right? And they said, okay, here's my tuition for the semester. And they're like, okay, Josh, you're going to come here. We're going to give you tests. You're going to study. We're going to give you assignments. And then at the end of the semester, I'm going to decide whether you get to get the credit for the course or you got to keep taking it another semester. Right? There's no, if someone said that to you, you'd be like, dude, that you're out of your mind. I just aced like all my quizzes and tests. And now you're telling me, oh no, I'm not ready because I'm gatekeeping. That's bullshit. What it is like, I see you're interested, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but we're human, right? You want to be like, okay, I'm going to make you work for this. I mean, there's egos involved, even with the best instructors.
Ego involved, yeah. And then on top of that, you know, there's the, you know, the business model, like we keep coming back to, right? You know, like if you're going to run a business, you want to be profitable.
Yeah, right. So yeah, you know, enrollment, renewal, retention. Those are the 3 pillars of running a martial arts business. So, you know, you have these dudes and they're, you know, or ladies, and they're just like, keep at, well, you know, I would see it on the Taekwondo side too. They would just keep adding more stuff to the curriculum. And they're like, okay, you can only test every like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Or you get more stripes. Well, it was 4 stripes. Now it's 6 stripes. Now it's 8 stripes.
We're at another level. Yeah. So that just keeps extending it. It took me 8 years to get my first black belt. I mean, granted, at the time I was playing, you know, I was still in college and I was, you know, away. I was doing competitive stuff and, you know, I was still training other stuff. And I basically did it part-time for a very long time. But then it was like, okay, you know, you also need to be able to appreciate somebody that comes in and also has an aptitude for it. You know, so you want to encourage that because that keeps them going and operating at a higher level. But then another, one of the guys brings up another point. Agreed. There's a local school that does a half-hour warm-up, half-hour instruction, and a half-hour sparring. I found this very light on learning. The problem is that most people have the attention span of goldfish don't want to follow flow drills. They think they try it once or twice, they got it right. And I will say, JMac 494, like an hour and a half of class is actually good by today's standards.
Very good.
You know, normally it's
45 minutes.
45 minutes, it's under an hour. So they'll do like a 20 or 30-minute warm-up, show a move, and then roll. I mean, that's your class. So that's actually not bad. We used to do like an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours. Like down in Cranford, it would be like ground fighting would be an hour, on the mat, and then standing would be another hour. And you could come in and you could take both classes or not. I mean, it's judo. Everyone's just kind of chill, right? So no one's making you push-ups for being late and bullshit like that. So, but most of the schools that I was involved with going, it was an hour and a half to 2 hour classes. All my wrestling practices were 2 hours. There was like, you can't really do, and that included, warm up, drilling, instruction, drill instruction, and then live. But we usually did I only did like shark bait, crap like that, and stuff like that. Didn't really want to keep I always put a game into it, so you can kind of fool the guys doing it, so they don't be like, okay, we're wrestling for a half hour. There were times in college we're like, okay, we're wrestling, 30 minutes, and it was a joke. It was like, and this is like top level place, where we'd be, again, don't get me wrong, we're drilling for an hour. We're lifting, we're doing side drilling with our coach during the day. So it's a different level stuff, right? So it's, you're looking at like a 3 hour, between 3.5, around there hours of training a day. And, then, but for like a class going to two nights a week, the hours really, 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 really tight, so it's tough though, because you have to have curriculums, you have to have lesson plans. You've got to these are the skills that we want to we want to make sure that you understand, not necessarily master, because you're only going to be good at like a handful of stuff. It's like I know like a shit ton of throws and submissions. I do like 3 throws and like a couple submissions, and a couple of pins. It's not like I sit there and be like, oh, sometimes you would pull something out of your behind and be like, oh yeah, where'd that come from? I have no idea, but it's not like
somebody's like, I've rolled with you how many times? I've never seen this before. Where did that come from?
Right. Like, I have no idea. Like, it's just something snapped. It was there. I did it. Never to be seen again.
Right.
I mean, it's like, so I get, that there's, there's a time constraint with this stuff. And like, when I hear, guys that are doing like, you get an hour of class, I understand how maybe it would take a lot longer to do things. But that, brings us to the point, like what is a black belt? You've got a, couple philosophies here. Now, normally it's like when I think, when all of us join, this is what we think a black belt is, right?
It's right? The sensei.
Yeah, dude, it's like an 8-pack abs. Freaking look at these AI animals, right? I mean, that's what when you get a black belt, you automatically mysteriously turn into this, right? So that is like what we all think of when you're getting a black belt. When someone has a black belt, this is what you conjure in your mind. But in reality, a lot of times, you get this, or you get this. So, question is, again, what is a black belt, right? And, I'm going to say it depends on it depends on your school. It depends on your system.
Wait, you're saying there's not one universal black belt standard?
No. Am I? It doesn't even vary between styles. It varies between schools.
It does, yeah.
And it's like, what do you want to do? And I don't have a problem with any of them, because it's like, this whole gatekeeping bullshit thing. That's like what we used to tell people back in the Taekwondo days. It's the same marketing plan. It's like, yeah, you got to train, they're giving them black belts in 3 years. We're going to have black belts in, 8. And they're like, oh, right. I think I want to do the 3-year plan. Right. Like, I don't know, man. So
that's like one of the first questions I ask people when I go into some place, and I'm like, all right, how long is it going to take for me to progress? And if they're like, well, we're on a 6-year time frame, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. It really depends on you.
Yeah.
One,
it should.
Right. 2 is like, I'm going to give you everything you need to know, right? That based on what we value. and then you can do all of it as fast as you can, or you can take your time. I don't care. And
yeah. So I guess back to your question of what is a black belt, right? So let's establish a baseline. What is a black belt, right? So in my mind, and I think in everybody else's mind, a black belt is somebody who is expertly proficient, right? They've achieved a level. They've achieved a level of proficiency where they should be able to perform with precision, right? That's what I think of when I think of a black belt.
Right. Okay, so I'll straw man this. It's like, okay, so what if somebody is, missing a leg?
They can be proficient in what they can do, right?
Okay, that's a great point. That's what I'm saying, right? So
yeah.
It has to be relative to the user.
Absolutely.
Okay, 100%. So you have to say it because if you're like, because when you say the first sentence without qualifying it, it makes it so that you have to be, proficient in all.
You come back to that AI photo, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then more, right. And the old lady and the young kid, I'm like, I got a thing with junior black belts. I'm not a fan, but anyway, to me, there's like, I still got that old school, karate, judo, and I guess BJJ mentality. It's like, to get your black belt, you gotta be, gotta be an adult. I mean, what I did like about judo is where it lacked in actually people. I think my problem with judo is like I felt like students should know more of the throw, the names of the throws and the techniques better, other than just doing it. Because some of the guys that don't know, any of the Japanese names or anything like that, they can do them. They can be really good at it. Yeah, dude, that's Taitoshi. You're like, okay.
Like, I don't know. I know this one, and I know this one, and I know this one.
Right. And the other element of it is you have to like go to competition and have promotion tournaments. So you go and you have to beat guys your own rank. And, the more, if you beat 3 in a row, like it starts at brown belt and you have to beat 3 in a row each time they have one. They have one like once every 6 months.
Okay, so then let me ask a question there. So if you have to go to competition and compete and beat people of your own level, what if you're just really terrible at competition? Or what if you're just really terrible in general? Does that then preclude you from ever receiving a black belt?
It does not. It just takes a long time.
Like, but you know what I mean, right?
And I'll be honest, I have no idea what the requirements are. I knew them at one point, but I was not interested in them even as an instructor. To put somebody up for that. I mean, I think they have to do it like several years.
Yeah, I looked it up not too long ago. I was curious, but yeah it's like they have like and that's the other thing too, right? And so like I was looking at the BJJ ones because my daughter was curious, right? And so we looked it up, and it was like you have to have done it so many years, right? Or have won a national level championship.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's fair. Like you won a national level championship, you get a promotion. What about the guy who got second place? You're saying he's not good enough to get a promotion?
Yeah, he sucks. Right.
Like, are you kidding me right now? We're talking about a national level championship that dude got second. Like, come on.
It's really kind of a meathead way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I say that in a lovingly way, being a meathead myself. I'm like, I think, because you're like, oh yeah, you got, it's like, yeah, especially when you're already standing on the mountaintop. And you're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna, so at least, with judo, it was, I will say, like at any of the promotion exam, I don't know anyone, and I'm sure they were around me that took the alternate route to get their black belt. But most of the guys, it was a competition element to it. And I think that's important if you're learning a combat sport.
Yeah, right? I agree. I do agree with that.
So it's like, look, if I'm boxing and I want to be, you got to box, right? I mean, if you're, like I've got videos of different, different styles we take a look at, because it's like, once we get into that portion of the evening. But yeah, so to your point, you have to, I wouldn't necessarily say proficiency or just understanding of the technique. Because like I said, like if you don't have, like, if you're missing a limb, you're not throwing a 1, 2, 3, combination.
Yeah.
right? It's like,
Sure.
shoulder out on that hook and that cross. So, you've got to have, you got to understand like body mechanics, how it works, how to teach it and understand it. Because even with the stuff that we teach, we're only like.
So then as a black belt, you're a teacher. That's what we're saying, right? That's like,
to me, it's like
you become a black belt, you now are a teacher.
Yeah, so the way I was raised, it's like having a black belt meant that you had a sufficient understanding and of the core foundation of the techniques and the tactics of what you're learning. You could do them, or you can demonstrate them, you can explain them. And then it's like, and I do like the way judo does it, because it's like then like your first through third degree black belts are like competition ranks. Like as you continue to progress and start doing more tournaments, or go into the promotion tournaments and things like that, which you still can up to third degree. I mean, you could do that. Then once you're third degree, it's all about teaching, right? So like if you're just going to compete and not teach, you're gonna tap out. You're gonna stop at third degree black belt. You're done. But to get to fourth, fifth, sixth, and upwards, it's like they're like teaching ranks, and then they're like more like lifetime achievement awards, right? And I think one of the best stories about Unesca, my judo instructor, when he got his so I think I forget, it's like fifth dan is like a red and white belt. And that was like what every kid wanted their instructor to have. He was already an eighth dan when I was training with him. This is from Carl, actually told me this story. He's like, when he got it, he's very excited. His sensei's got a red and white belt. And he goes, "Sensei, you're gonna wear your red and white belt?" And he looked at him and goes, "Those are girl colors." It was like that, but he's like, "I'm not wearing that fucking shit." He wore a white gi and a black belt, and I liked wearing a white gi and a black belt. That was it. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to. I just put on this. I'm here to work. I'm wearing a black belt because I'm not a beginner, and if you can't tell, either I'm really shitty for the room or you're really shitty for the room if you can't tell if I'm good or not, because you never know, right? So I think that I feel with the comments where there has to be like an element of that, or an alternate route, because again, if you're building an art, you've got different people with different perspectives, that bring different, bring a different element to it. I think that's important. But to sit there and be like, oh, 10 years black belt, and then meanwhile compare what you're doing to the pharmaceutical companies, I don't think it's a good look. And I don't disagree with what you're saying, because you want to get people paying more often, and that's that. The reality is you shouldn't have to do that with rank. You should just be going to train because you like to train at that point. If you really love your BJJ, if you really love your judo, it's like, okay, now I got my black belt. Okay, now it starts at a different level, right? Now, now it just brings it into, a whole other, now I'm respected as someone who has an understanding of what's going on here. And I'm not being, it's kind of a disingenuous relationship to have with the student, to have someone who's like operating at a very high level and keep holding them back.
Yeah.
Because that's shitty. That's like a gatekeeping. Dude, if I am here, I take umbrage to that gatekeeping bullshit, because if I'm here and I'm like putting my life on the line, and like that give it, even you should know who I am within 1 year. I mean, really, you should know I am within like a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
If this guy's an asshole or not, you all know. Usually it takes about a minute, but for the most part, as you're going through it, and that person's also developing and learning about humility, and learning that hopefully if you're in the right environment, everybody iron makes iron stronger. It's like everybody's getting each other better, and you want to encourage that. That's the one thing I really liked about judo from my experience, and BJJ, because a lot of the guys were really cool. You know, that it's like if you were good, they're like, dude, I want you to stay. When you coming back? Kind of shit. Because I know you get me better. And it was the same with wrestling too. You know, you're like, okay, damn. All right, dude. I'm coming back, right? You're coming back, So, and then you start getting, because you get each other better. Clayton comments, some systems I've studied also required fair proficiency with the history and tradition of the schools or system as part of basic black belt. Yeah, I think that's important too. If you're learning, that's the culture aspect of it. It's like, who invented this thing? Where did it come from? Who was your instructor? You learn about your lineage, because now you're bringing in the social dynamic to it. Which,
I mean, if you're going to train something hard enough, right, regardless of how long it takes, but if you're going to put in the effort that it takes to become a black belt, you should be interested enough to know its history, right?
Correct.
To be interested enough to know how it socially impacts things, right?
Yeah, and also, like, I blame and also a lot of that falls on the instructor.
Yeah.
Because look, it wasn't like Yanni was telling me to learn who Kano was. I mean, it's just like, there were certain things that I had to know with that. Certain things with Taekwondo, my instructor, made me know who General Cho was, or whatever his name is. I always forget. And I had to learn this stuff. So, I mean, so it's like understanding from a competitive sport or a cultural fighting art. I mean, if there has to be a set standard laid out before you of what you should know. And honestly, the hour-a-week class is tough, but if you're, you can't put a timeline on it, but if you're like athletic and you have a proficiency at it, honestly, it should take you like between 2 and 3 years. I'm just throwing this number out there to get a black belt if you were like really good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were like a stud, and
I mean, it still takes time, right? You can't just come in and roll in and learn something proficiently enough to be called a black belt within 3 months, right? That's just not going to happen. It's not feasible, right?
I mean, and if
it still takes time,
right? I mean, and the nice thing about the combat sports is that, like, look, if your jiu-jitsu or judo is good, you should be able to do well against somebody who's inexperienced.
Right. And that's where that competition comes into play, where you go in, you compete against other people and see how you actually stack up. Right.
Right.
If somebody's fast tracking, they should be proficient enough, skilled enough, right? We're talking about athleticism enough to be able to go to a competition and do well.
What if you get a guy who all of a sudden in BJJ, gets to, purple belt and like is impossible to tap by no one can tap him in the entire room. Right. Or let's just say a fair large percentage of the black belts can't tap this dude.
Yeah.
All right. What if then when he starts tapping them, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, and what if this guy does it within 2 years?
Right. Exactly.
Right. Now you're going to be like, oh, you got to wait another 5 or 6. Cause personally, I want to encourage that guy and get him to be better. And, the black belt is not the end. The black belt's the beginning, which is another point as to what is a black belt. So you've got like proficiency based on your current skill set, right? So, because if you're teaching, if you want to be a competitive athlete, that's different than somebody who's a hobbyist.
For sure.
100%. Somebody who's in their 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and wants to come in, they should, in a reasonable amount of time, if they understand what's happening and they get it, they should be able to achieve a notable rank in a reasonable amount of time. Having somebody in their 70s wait 10 years, who's coming in 2 or 3 times a week, man, you're going to give it to them posthumously, possibly. So,
yeah. Well, and back to that whole, like, people learn things at different paces, right? Like I remember when I was doing BJJ, not that well, I guess it's a few years ago now. One of the professors was super pissed because I went in to test and he hadn't seen me before, And he was like, there's no way you know this material. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I went and I performed it flawlessly. And he was fuming mad because he was like,
Right.
how do you know this? And I'm like, bro, does it matter? I just executed it flawlessly, you know?
Right.
Just
Right. And it should be applauded.
right.
You know,
Instead of being pissed off and being like, I hate you, like, how dare you come in here? And I'm like, bro, really?
yeah, right? It's like I don't understand. That's the freaking that is, BJJ has the Taekwondo mentality. They really do. They've adopted like it's a very like especially the Westerners that teach it. I think the Brazilians are just very more laid back, and so are the Japanese, to be quite honest. I expected just the opposite, with these guys. But I think like when the Westerners get into it, they like act like to inject like it's not a military, a lot of ego, a lot of like, where are you training? Where are you learning this? Only I can teach you this, and if I didn't teach you this, you don't know it. Dude,
or it's like a modified version from the way they do it, and they're like, that is not how you do it. And it's like, but it still worked. I learned it at someplace else. Does it matter?
right, you should be like, oh, that's cool. Show me that.
Right, exactly.
I always laugh because people are like talking about like a baseball or a golf swing. Like you got like the basic fundamentals of it, but if you look at like every major league swing or like different guys' golf swing, it's all variable to their body type.
Exactly.
There's little nuances on it that you're like, okay, it works for him. What is that? So, it's like, they have, so you have that ego, and then that's like the baseline of it. And then it's like, okay, now you've got like the different styles.
Yeah.
And why one is, so you have to look at it like I'm learning it. Like we always talk about martial arts is more being a brand than it is a fighting art. And it's a fighting art is exactly what it is. And everything looks differently. For example, like I've got a bunch here that I want to rip through because if you look at, okay, let me just get rid of this guy. So point sparring, here we go. All right. This is karate. Okay. All right. You can see what it looks like. That's a point. Scores. It's a game of tag. It's challenging, yes. Like that, spinning back kick was sick, but it's not knocking anybody out.
No, I mean, what almost happened to him? He got bowled over.
Yeah, right. So I don't think any of these are effective. Now, let's take a look at share. Here we go. Okay. Now look at Kyokushin. Can't hit the head, but you can hit the body. You can kick the head and you can punch the body. Little different. Those liver shots are awful, man. They're just
Oof.
Leg kicks. Look at that shit. Not point sparring. It's both karate, by the way.
Oh.
Oh, dude. I watch this shit all day. I'm sorry. Yeah. And he's got, oh, man. Oh.
There's a little bit of flopping going on. Okay.
Yeah. But, I'm like.
But they're still getting hit.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so this is like, looks, again, you could say these are the same styles, but very, 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 very,
vastly different approach.
Now,
yeah.
There we go. Where's my thing? Where are you? Screen. Here we go. Now you got Taekwondo. Just get a little head. Okay. Similar, but really just kicks, right? The punches are really not as effective. They're wearing the Hogu, which is the chest protector. But you're looking at. Oh, come on! All right, here we go. Come on! Bang! So again, you can tell the difference between all the three systems, right? I mean, basically abandoning strikes to the body with the hand and just really kind of just going for the head. Right. So now let's look at the grappling arts.
You gonna show me one where they're in the car?
No.
Oh, come on.
So hold on. Come on.
While you're waiting for this, how have we not done a podcast about grappling and cars?
Oh,
I'm
we'll
just
have
saying.
to.
Like, how have we not done that yet? I like, for everybody who's out there, I saw this on ESPN, the Ocho.
The Ocho's the best.
And I messaged Damian about it. I'm like, how is this a thing? And he's like, oh, I've known about this forever. I'm like, oh, thanks, Damian.
Not forever, but I know it. I've seen it. It's just, oh my God, it's just such a, it's so, I get it, but I'm like, you know, would be better is boxing in a car. To be honest, that would make more sense to me. So we got judo. Again, big throws. Half point. Half point?
There's only one shoulder, man. There's only one shoulder.
Dude, you just got to go straight to your back. That's bullshit. That's Ippon. There you go. You know, I'm like, come on, man. That's Ippon. That's Ippon. Give her half. She already had a half point. Bang. So let me see if there's any grappling on the submissions on. Here you go. She was going for. Okay. Let's see if I think these are just all throws.
Well, since it says most devastating Ippons, I'm going to assume it's
It
mostly
does.
throws.
No. Yeah. So yeah. So it's grappling arts. Okay, there's judo. I don't have wrestling on here, believe it or not.
Really? You don't have some dude jumping off the ropes with a chair?
No. I do not.
Clayton, car. See? We got to do it. Give the fans what they want.
Okay, so now here's BJJ. Oh, he's going to throw. Okay, again. This is also, you'll see this in judo, but again, more concentrated. But if you were to look at the two, you could totally see the difference. You know, some similar stuff, but again, you know, submission oriented. You could tell just they're different brands. So, you know, having a black belt in one doesn't necessarily mean you have a black belt in the other. At all. So, you know, then you've got combat sambo, which is sick. Oh. So you say you got judo throws, you have submissions, you have striking. It's like a good transition to like MMA. And this has been going on for a very long time. I love the coaches. The coaches are the best. That's every coach. Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, look, and don't get me wrong, like all the guys are watching, or like, especially the grapplers and the Kyokushin guys, they're all tough as like nails.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and I give people credit doing Taekwondo. Obviously, you know, it's very hard. You know, you're dedicating yourself to something, hours and hours of training. But like, yeah, dude, come on. Especially these guys coming out of these Eastern Bloc war-torn countries. Like, no, thank you. You know, this is like a break. So now we'll get to some of the other styles.
Wait. I got this. Hold on.
His experience there. He reaches over with his left hand and blocks the seatbelt of Davidson. Okay, round 2 underway. It looks
All
like
right, I showed
Are they buckled?
all the
Yeah, you have to start buckled.
style of
Dude, he's garroting him.
inside a mid-size sedan. And joining us this morning to explain more is the creator of Kart Jitsu, Vic Meek.
All right.
Dude, it's
we
like,
got
hey,
we got a taste of it.
dude, can I borrow your car this weekend? Where are you going? I'm not going anyplace. This is going to be at my house. I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, you start buckled, and then you got to get out and get the other person.
Did you see the movie The Other Guys? With Will
I
Ferrell.
love that movie.
when they did the hobo. Putin does judo, Clayton. So when the when they get the hobos are in the car, I mean, that's how your car gets returned. Your buddy had a grappling tournament in the car. Like, what the hell happened here? It's like, holy shit. So yeah, and this is a martial art.
Yeah, Tai Chi. Got to get your energy flowing.
Yes. And again, I don't know what, I've never really explored any of this. I understand, like, it's got a yoga component to it, but again, a martial art, right? Compare it to the other ones. What does a black belt in this look like? Right? So, and then finally,
There's someone I know, a couple people I know who do Tai Chi for self-defense, and I'm always like, how does that work?
what does that look like?
Yeah.
So here's Kung Fu. Again, this is choreographed dancing. People think you can actually like fight like this. Yeah, I mean, this is like the funniest thing is when we're talking about like years ago, and I'm first like training with Carl. He goes, Kung Fu looks good against Kung Fu. It's like when two people are doing the same thing, but he goes, once you get somebody else in there, all of a sudden it looks like everything. It turns into just a brawl. Like, and again, very athletic, very difficult to do, but none, not crazy effective. Yeah, sure. If somebody like randomly was flying around and kicked you in the head, yeah, it's gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt.
You're probably gonna get knocked out. But I mean, the whole pretense to it is like, this stuff is not easy to do. The motions and the gymnastics and all the other, it's insane.
Oh, absolutely.
But,
like that. Like, man, I can't do that.
Yeah, right. But I got news for you. Once one of these guys gets it's over, man. I mean, this is like, no. What are you doing?
Yeah. It
So-
always brings me back to a point too, now that we're kind of talking about martial arts in general, it brings me back to a point that we discuss all the time, but it's like, martial arts versus martial arts, right? And I'm always like, which countries beat which countries, like people like not to knock like Filipino stick fighting and stuff like that, but I'm always like, do you guys know how many times the Filipinos have been taken over, or like the Koreans, or even the Chinese? Like the Japanese dominated that part of the world for.
I'm going to tell you, any country that ends in a stan, like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, like any Eastern European former CCP country, they're a problem. These guys are just, it's just I mean, look at what's coming at, like what's his name? His name's escaping me. MMA fighter, 29-0.
I don't know.
Oh God, man! Oh my God, I'm embarrassed that I use names like right off the top of my tongue. Yeah, Khabib. Nurmagomedov, just Nurmagomedov. Khabib. You know what that is?
It sounds familiar.
He basically retired Conor McGregor.
Oh, okay.
He was like on top. He's like, he's like, talk now. I mean, yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, really, like that part of the world. I knew that. And
Those Eastern Bloc dudes are nuts.
I mean, with wrestling and judo, I have an experience with them, and they're all like, if you looked at them, they just look like cinder blocks with hair on them. And these dudes are like, it's like a different freaking world. I mean, do you know who Corellian is?
It sounds familiar.
Okay, so
but I mean, just look at let's look at how they train their military, right? If we put like special operations on the level of like professional athletes, right? Like how they train the Spetsnaz is insane. Like they crawl through like rivers of blood and stuff. Like, excuse me, what?
Yeah, right.
That's a different mentality for sure.
Right. So there's a guy, Alexander Karelin. He was a Greco-Roman wrestler. He's called the Experiment. He was a few years older than me. Was an Olympian.
So definitely still communist bloc.
Yeah, heavyweight. He lost one fight to an American, and the way that he lost, it bothered me as a wrestler because I was still wrestling at the time. And Greco, like they put in this new rule. This was his last Olympics ever. He would have been a 4-time Olympic champion. He was your wrestling Rulon Gardner, who is a tough dude. I mean, side note, the dude, like, his snowmobile broke down. He got into a snowmobile accident.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with Rulon Gardner. Yeah.
Yeah, broken foot and like wound up losing half his foot for like miles, right? So the rule was Karelin would get the grip. Rulon's a big dude. He's got a bit, he's a round guy and very extremely insanely strong. Karelin, if he broke the grip, it was a point and he lost the match. It was like double overtime. So it's kind of a bullshit rule. They don't use it anymore, and this is how he was. But this is Karelin. So his gut wrench is this. Look at this shit. That's another heavyweight, by the way. And he's just like picking you up and slamming you into the earth.
Oof.
Just like, and these are all the best wrestler you ever heard of, right? I mean,
right.
This is like Olympic level wrestling.
Yes.
And look at that dude, man. I'm like, I can't even tell you. I think he's fighting in Pride here or some shit. But yeah, I mean, that is a heavyweight.
That's insane.
Look at this. That dude's like 250, 260 pounds he's throwing. This is when he lost, right here. Oh, they cut it. But yeah. But look at that dude. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just slamming dudes. Oh, brutal.
Oof.
So, yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to this kid. I don't know if you had a chance to look at his tube.
I didn't have a chance, no, but I'm excited. Show it to me.
Okay, Nathaniel Cho. I'm urging everybody to go take a look at it. He did the BJJ's fake thing. And, I mean, fake isn't accurate. It's a little clickbaity, but he does a freaking great job about BJJ and self-defense. And, still people are taking it and insisting that it's real. He goes into ninjutsu, which, again, we all knew it was kind of stupid, but I didn't understand until he broke it down that, like, ninjutsu was like created in 1965. When I say created, it was made into like novels and shit.
Yeah.
And when they talk about the term shinobi isn't it's not a warrior. It's basically clandestine tactics.
They were a spy and stuff like that.
But they weren't spies. They were spy techniques that samurai used. They're like military spy. It'd be like CIA using stuff. Like, okay, I need you guys to dress in a certain way, and we're going to infiltrate the castle. They did a Trojan horse thing at the castle. That was shinobi. It wasn't like ninja. Nobody was wearing black masks. Like that stuff all got, and the straight sword never happened. That was, made up after in the 60s and the 70s. So basically ninjutsu evolved like from over 25 years, starting in 1962, I think.
Yeah.
And he's got a couple of professors on there and a couple of other people. It's like, it's hysterical. But he does like such a really good job. I want to give him a shout out here. I put the link in the description for everybody to go take a look at him. I think, you know, he's like, yeah, I just started that, and I've been watching this. Hold on. The Baby News Network, Baby Trump. Dude, I'm going to tell you, hold on. I'm just giving this here. Oh, wait. Because I'm going to tell you that my favorite is Joe Biden.
Covering what Italian men have known for decades. And
out of the country, trashing America while your district was running the biggest daycare heist in history. Very sad.
Okay, you're
my community.
Have you ever taken exogenous ketones?
Well, I've heard of ketones. What's an exogenous ketone?
You can take exogenous ketones. It's ketones that you drink.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it, believe me.
Congresswoman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tucker. I'm here to set the record straight on the relentless Islamophobic and xenophobic.
She's doing the list already, Tucker. She's speed running the list. We haven't even started, and she's 3 X and 2 phobics deep. Very impressive, actually. Probably a new record.
The campaign of hatred that this man has waged against me, against my community, against the entire...
See? She can't stop. It's like a faucet, a very angry, low IQ faucet. And it's driving them crazy, Tucker. They're nuts.
I have a higher approval rating in my district than you ever could get.
Let's start with the basics. Congresswoman, you once described the September 11th attacks as, and I'm reading directly here, quote, some people did something.
Okay. That was taken completely out of context. I was speaking about the broader experience of Muslim Americans who faced discrimination after the point of the speech was about civil liberties. And if people actually watched the full thing.
Nobody needs to watch the full anything. You said some people did something about 9/11. That's like describing the Titanic as a boat had a thing. You don't get to
Dude, wait, I want to hear, wait, I gotta do.
Welcome everybody to the therapy session.
It's my favorite.
Now our therapist, very weak guy, by the way, not a winner. He called off today, couldn't make it, probably emotional, very low energy. So I decided to step up like I always do, because nobody loves helping people as much as I do. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I am a licensed genius. And frankly, that's better. Joe, the floor is yours. Tell me what's going on. Take your time. Actually, don't take too much time, because with you, that could be 3 hours for one sentence.
Well, Doc, can I call you Doc?
You can call me President or Supreme Leader. I answer to both now, actually.
So, look, here's the deal. I've been having these, the dreams, bad ones, real bad. I wake up in the middle of the night sweating, and I hear the laugh, man.
The Kamala laugh?
Don't say it like that. Don't just say it out loud. It comes back. It echoes. I'll be sitting there eating my ice cream, chocolate chip, the good stuff. And then out of nowhere, just right in my ear, like she's in the walls, Doc. She's in the walls.
That sounds like a nightmare, Joe. And I'm very confident it is one, because I've heard the laugh and it haunts me too. But I'm strong enough to handle it. You clearly are not. And that's okay. That's why you're on the couch. Continue.
4 years, man. 4 years I sat next to that. Every meeting, every briefing, every, the thing where you stand at the podium and the cameras are there and you got it. Well, anyway, she'd just start laughing at nothing. Someone would say good morning and she'd go off like a fire alarm in a library. I didn't sleep for a full term. Not one good night. Not one.
I believe it, honestly. Very traumatic. And the Democrats did that to you, Joe, your own party. They stuck you with her. Very cruel people. Lunatics, actually.
You want to know the worst part? I didn't even, look, I'm just going to say it. I didn't even pick her. They told me to pick her. They said, Joe, you got to pick Kamala. And I said, pick who? And they said it again. And I still didn't know who she was. And then she was just there at every meeting, laughing.
Incredible. So they forced her on you, just like a subscription you didn't sign up for. And speaking of subscriptions, Joe, I hate to add another one on you, but go ahead and whip out your phone and subscribe to the Baby News Network. Hit the bell. Very important.
Wait, what?
Baby News Network. BNN. Biggest network in the world, probably. Everybody's watching it. You'd know that if you weren't asleep for 4 years.
I don't. Is that on the internet? Jill handles the internet.
Just subscribe, Joe. Have Jill do it. Have the auto pen do it. I don't care. Moving on. What else is bothering you?
And you want to know what else?
Oh, dude.
You want to know what else, Doc? I didn't, and I probably shouldn't be saying this.
No, please. Say it. This is therapy. This is a safe space. I mean, I'm going to tell everybody, but go ahead. Really.
I never signed anything, man.
What do you mean you never signed anything?
The documents, the executive orders, the bills. I didn't sign any of them, not one. They had this thing, this pen thing, the auto pen. It just signs for you. I'd be in the other room eating pudding, and the pen would be in the Oval Office signing stuff with my name on it. I'd see it on the news later and go, oh, I did that. Huh. Interesting.
So a robot was running the country?
It wasn't a robot. It was a pen.
Joe, a pen was signing executive orders while you ate pudding. That's a robot. That's a very low-tech robot, but it's a robot. I'm writing this down. This is incredible. Nobody's ever seen anything like it, believe me.
And the thing is, Doc, half the stuff that Penn signed, I don't even agree with. The border stuff, not me. The energy stuff, not me. They'd bring me a stack of papers and I'd say, what's this? And they'd say, don't worry about it, Joe. And I didn't worry about it. That was my whole presidency.
So yeah, that is yeah, that's like coming in my feed now. I think that everybody, it's hysterical, man.
That is funny.
So yeah, so check out Nathaniel Cho, links in there. I think he's doing a really good job. We'll give him a shout out. And yeah, thank everybody for joining us. Clayton, Tom, glad to see you guys posting. We'll be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you again, Josh. And until next time, everybody, train honestly.